going on, all you wonderful A-Plusers out there? It is I, Stuart, here once again with another review for you guys. This time we're going to be talking about Star Trek Strange New Worlds Season 2, Episode number 4. Man, I can't believe we are already 4 episodes into this season. So far, pretty solid season, if I do say so myself, and this episode is definitely no exception. Probably not quite up to the level of episodes 2 and 3, but you know, still a really fun episode and a really good blast overall. So let's talk about this episode. Let's get into it, guys, starting with the very beginning, which is Captain Pike blaming himself because Captain Batal did not get the promotion that she was looking for, hoping to, I believe, become a Commodore, but she is unfortunately still stuck as his captain. Reason Captain Pike blames himself, of course, is because of the events from episode number 2 with the trial, believing that the trial and her not being able to basically get Una, or I believe Una to be like guilty of, you know, being an Illyrian, basically kind of ruined her chances of getting that promotion. But you know, sometimes these things take time, and hopefully things work out for her later. But regardless, currently in the episode, Pike feels bad about this and uses it kind of as an excuse to put a break on their relationship. And we'll definitely come back to this at the very end of the episode, because before more relationship drama stuff happens, we have the Enterprise discovering something going on the planet. I believe it was Rigel 7, and it turns out 5 years ago, so before the events of Discovery, before we really got to know this version of Captain Pike, there was a ground mission on that planet that went completely wrong, and unfortunately they had to leave some people behind who they thought were killed in action. They survey this planet and find that the Starfleet logo is being used on this planet, meaning that they may have made some really bad changes and that they need to rectify. So they go in undercover, basically in disguise, in order to investigate. And Pike for this mission needs people who can handle themselves without weapons. So one of the people that are joining on this mission at first is Ortega, and she's really excited because it's her first away mission, basically. But unfortunately, things go south for her because Spock brings up that there is, I can't remember the exact explanation that they give, but basically there's some interference with the planet, and because of that, they may need her to manually, drive the Enterprise just in case something happens. So Pike, of course, promises next time, but, basically says that he has to fly the shuttle down to the planet. So Ortega is a bit bummed about this. So the away team consists of Pike, Mbenga. I am so sorry. Okay, so the previous episode, I claimed that I had forgotten the doctor's name. I didn't. I actually had it written down. The reason I didn't say it at the time is because I was so afraid of butchering it, and even now I feel like I'm still really butchering the name, so I apologize. I'm trying really hard not to, but Mbenga, I think I'm saying it right, and Lon come across as Zach. Sorry, I jumped the gun there on my notes. You can blame my dyslexia for that, but basically, the away team consists of Pike, Lon, and Mbenga, and they come across Zach when they are exploring the planet, and Zach is one of the people that they believed was killed in action during the previous mission, but they are surprised to find out that he is alive, and he's not happy, basically. He used Starfleet tech to essentially become king of this planet, but blames Pike for leaving him on the planet to die. So his punishment to Pike is basically he forces him outside of this castle, and we find out that this planet, something about the radiation that came from the meteors on this planet, it makes it really hard for you to remember very basic things. Now, what's so interesting about the concept of this, and this is, sometimes I don't like it when amnesia plays a part into the storyline, because oftentimes it's used as a way for writers to do shortcuts. This was definitely not one of those examples. I actually really like how in-depth they get with how the amnesia affects you, how like your basic skills will stay the same. So if you're a doctor, like in the case of both doctors on the show, because even with Nurse Chapel, because we find out later that the Enterprise is being affected by this, both of them are able to know the very basics of, being a doctor, basically. They won't know any very specific things. I can't remember exactly what specific things they would forget when it comes to practicing medicine, but there are very small things that they would forget. But for the most part, they can still do their job just fine. And it turns out when it comes to like things like skill, things like emotion, those type of memories can't fade away. And it's because of this that Pike is able to use this locket that was given to him from Captain Batel, and because he recognizes that he has a very emotional attachment, it's pretty much the main thing that kind of grounds him and makes him realize that something isn't right. I also do like that, again, going back to the memory loss thing, they all basically, most of the people who lose their memories, they're just like okay with being just the laborers on the planet because it's all they have going for him. But Pike, one of the things he pieces together is the fact that, you know, it looks like to him that his job that he's always had his whole life has been crushing rocks. But he looks at his hands, notices that these don't look like, hard labor hands, at least not that type of hard labor, the lack of calluses, them just being kind of soft overall. And I think that's another thing that kind of, drives him to realize that something just isn't right about this planet. So eventually, he's led to believe that there is a chest within the castle that can unlock his memories and the memories of his crew. And basically, after storming the castle, have fun storming the castle, he eventually gets in, but then discovers that, the box is actually just filled with equipment from Starfleet. And that's when a lot of, familiarity kind of comes back. We then have, of course, Zach trying to stop him, but then, of course, Pike, because it's Captain Pike, he of course kicks Zach's ass, and that's when we get a moment that I actually thought was quite interesting from Pike, something I really didn't expect, which is after one too many insults, Pike is ready to just kill him right then and there, and it's only then when his memories are restored and he suddenly remembers he's a Starfleet officer that he, doesn't pull the trigger. And one thing he even kind of says, Zach mentions how the planet changes you, and Pike kind of denies that and says, no, it just reveals who you really are, meaning that somewhere deep in Pike actually believes, he's somewhat of a killer. He has like a killer instinct, which I thought was really interesting. And I can see why. It's weird because, it kind of goes to that whole debate on what really makes you kind of like a good person at the core. Do you do things because it's right, because it's just the easy way through life, or do you do things because it's right, because it's the right thing to do? Because in that moment, Pike had Zach down. Like, Zach was no longer a threat and he was ready to kill him. Something that, to my personal opinion, is not morally okay. Even though for him at that time, it felt like, the right thing, the easy thing to do at the same time. It all comes down to, years of working at Starfleet and just, the way he was raised. We still don't know too much about his childhood or anything like that, but we do know that, whatever conditioning he had as a person has led him to being the responsible officer that does not shoot first, basically. So there is that whole kind of thing at our core, though. If we didn't have that, would we be would we be more violent if we didn't have that kind of question? So I thought that was a very kind of interesting moment from the episode. The other, kind of highlight, going back to the Ortega stuff, is I do love how it's her instincts that kind of kick in that save the Enterprise, because eventually after, a few too many meteors hit the ship, she realizes, oh man, I'm going to have to keep flying the ship in order to dodge all of these meteors. But what I like is how it takes her a minute, because she forgets completely who she is, doesn't realize she's a pilot, but the moment she realizes she's a pilot and she gets behind the controls, again, kind of going by what memories are taken, what memories aren't, her memories of flying the Enterprise, or at least her instincts, kick in, and she's able to safely navigate as Pike and everyone else are able to come back from the mission. A really cool episode. It also, of course, ends with Pike apologizing and him and Batel seemingly being back together, but we will see how that relationship goes going forward. Okay, so one nitpick I do kind of have with this episode. Towards the beginning of the episode, after Pike breaks it off with Batel, he has a moment with Una, and Una kind of brings up the fact that he did that thing that he always does, that thing of always pushing people away right before he gets too close to them. This is a trait that I could see a character like Pike having, but the way she kind of brings it up to him is it kind of comes off as, oh, this is something that Pike does all the time. Now, seeing him in Star Trek Discovery Season 2 and seeing him in, Strange New World Season 1 and, so far 4 episodes into Season 2, there really haven't been that many moments from Pike that made me suggest that's the kind of person he is. It's a very good trope to use with certain characters, because it makes you feel for them, and it makes just, the friendships that they gain just that much more rewarding to you as an audience, because you're so used to seeing them, purposely push people away. But I never got that vibe with for a character like Pike. In fact, if anything, he seems to really keep his crew very close. I mean, he invites them to his quarters some of the times to have like a personal, meal that he cooks himself, doesn't use any food replicators or anything like that. So to me, the idea that he's the kind of guy that pushes people away didn't really track. But that's kind of a nitpick. I do think overall this was a very solid episode. Again, something I think I mentioned in my previous review for the first 3 episodes that I really love about Strange New Worlds is how very Star Trek this show feels. And by that I mean I love how creative they get with the one-off adventures that may not have any huge impact in the overall plot, but definitely do when it comes to just overall character development and growth. And I think the type of situations they play with, especially in this episode, are just entertaining as hell. So overall, really did enjoy this episode. If I were to rate it based on everything, I would definitely give it a solid probably B plus, A minus, maybe B plus. I'm kind of going somewhere between there. And again, that's really all just because of that nitpick I had, just with Pike not seeming like the kind of person that pushes people away, but people acting like he's been like that the whole time. Just seemed a little out of place to me. But again, that is a nitpick. Overall, a very fantastic episode. Definitely recommend checking this episode out if you guys haven't already. But overall, of course, at the end of the day, these are just my A+ opinions. We here at A+ Opinions always want to know what you guys think. So definitely let me know your thoughts of the episode in the comments below. Don't forget to hit that like button, subscribe to our channel. But of course, guys, above all, don't forget to keep it A+, and I will talk to you all later. Goodbye.